Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. Now today we are here to cover Morgan Rogers' £117 million move to Chelsea, which is now the second biggest transfer in Premier League history, with Florian Wirtz being 125, not Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak being 125 million. And this is now going to be a really interesting one because I think a lot of people have had the exact same reaction. Rival fans, fans of Chelsea, Villa fans, everyone has gone, it's a ridiculously overpriced move for the player that Morgan Rogers is. Now, hopefully, today, I'm going to give you a little bit more nuance and just kind of cover who Morgan Rogers is as a football player, how he plays, how he fits in at Chelsea. The reason that I think that Morgan Rogers is a very, very good player, but I'm not sure if Chelsea is the perfect fit for me. So yeah, we're going to cover everything today. So if you do enjoy the pieces, please do not forget to like, comment and subscribe to the Overlap Breakdown channel. Obviously the World Cup is now finished, so we are completely back into summer signing club mode. So yeah, Morgan Rogers is 23 years old, obviously has played for, come through at West Brom, went to Manchester City as an academy player, obviously played with the likes of Cole Palmer there, went to Lincoln City on loan, Bournemouth on loan, Blackpool on loan, then ended up at Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick, had a really good breakthrough season there, and then obviously Aston Villa signed him for £7 million plus £8 million in add-ons, and since then he's got 22 caps for England and become one of the better players and one of the better English players in the Premier League. Now, the big thing is with me and Morgan Rogers in terms of the way I view him is kind of how unique his profile is in terms of positional. Like, I can't really call him a pure left winger, a pure number 10, a pure right winger, a second striker. He doesn't really fit into any natural position for me, and that's because of the skill set he has. His skill set is one that is of a 6'2" stature. He's very lean. He's got unbelievable athleticism and sometimes maybe relies on it too much when it comes to sort of spinning on the ball, the way he can bounce off players, the way he can run at full pelt. Sometimes he puts together pretty ridiculous carries, just ridiculous dribbles where he gets himself cornered in with like 2 or 3 players around him, and he can break through the press. He can attack bigger spaces. He's obviously got them long legs with a freakish nature of sprint speed, because when he's on the ball, he does actually not really tend to run at top speed. But then when he's off the ball, making deep runs down the sides of Ollie Watkins and stuff like that, then you get to see some of the runs he makes, and they become ridiculous runs, and runs that off the ball can be used a lot more. Now, just before we go into this, I'm going to obviously show some graphics up on your screen right now, and to hit home about Morgan Rogers' carrying ability. He's had 30 shot-ending carries from last season in the Premier League. I've got the graphic up on your screen right now to show you where the cluster of them come, which is at the top left of the opposition's box. So this box right here, this little sector of the box, pretty much all of them, apart from maybe 2 or 3, are coming on this left-hand side, on that narrow point of the box. And then I'm going to show you that compared to all of Chelsea's forwards from last season. And we can see that he cleans up in shot-ending carries, goal-ending carries, and chance-ending creating carries. Actually, Pedro Neto's got more chance-ending creating carries. So the reason why he's a very, very unique player is because he's more of a shooter. He's more of a goal scorer. He's not really someone I would class as being a number 10. When you think of a number 10, and you think of players like I don't know, like a Florian Wirtz, for example, who's gone for similar money, they are more chance creators, they are playmakers. Morgan Rogers is not that player. And when people were talking about him playing number 10 for England, I often disregarded it completely because I just didn't see him as a number 10 in that mould. I don't think he's a tremendous box crasher. I don't think he's someone who can drop into these spaces and come and get the ball. But what I do think he is an unbelievable ball carrier and someone who can bounce off players and someone who can run at really high pace, be robust. And the problem is when I look at when Chelsea have signed him and what Chelsea have signed him for, and everyone knows about his abilities and stuff like that, but it's where he fits into Chelsea where I instantly start to scratch my head, because in a 4-2-3-1 like this, I've seen a lot of people saying that it could be Cole Palmer in the centre of the pitch like this in number 10. I've seen people saying Estevao, João Pedro, Morgan Rogers off this left-hand side. Now, Morgan Rogers, when he played left-hand side for Villa, I want to just really hone in on how different of a structure it is at Aston Villa. Oftentimes for Aston Villa, and we said this in the Tielemans piece, they would build up with Rodgers and Watkins like that, and the two players like this, very, very narrow. And what that means is they have a lot of space down the outsides, and they try to overload the centre. So even when Morgan Rodgers is playing left side like this, he comes and stands in the middle, gets the ball between the lines, and he's able to run through. He can get width down the outside of him with the fullbacks bombing on. He can get other sort of supporting runs from the number 10s coming inside. But that role is so unique, both in counter-attacking situations, when Emi Martinez has got the ball and they're building out like this. Again, we mentioned this for Tielemans, how unique their whole plan is, Aston Villa, because they like to accelerate the ball through the pitch really fast. They want to go like that through, and then they want to attack 1v1. And the solutions that Morgan Rodgers gives you is one that is suited to the modern game, in the sense that when teams go complete man-to-man in the Premier League, he can dominate 1v1 man-to-man roles. He can dominate them. And I think that is why he was often being looked at by, Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, of course. I think the main reasons for that are just the absolute sheer quality of his physical attributes to play 1v1, and to, most importantly, make transitions stick, and make a transition go from having the ball in these areas and putting it in the opposition's box and getting a lot of chances out of them. So again, I've got a lot of these shots on your screen right now. So I've got another graphic on your screen, which is showing the 84 shots that he took in the 25-26 season, along with his 10 goals. We can see that he's a pretty high volume shooter, 2.3 shots, a lot of outside of the box shots, 3 goals actually coming from them. Again, that same cluster on the top left of the box right there. So I want to show you a lot about them top left sort of runs, where he gets the ball, how he likes to work with it, because I've seen a lot of people talking about he has somewhat raw technical ability, and I do agree that his passing game isn't that, he's not exceptional, it's not outstanding. I think it's pretty okay, and for a player who's obviously going for 117 million, you would want that to be, of a very good standard. Now, Morgan Rodgers' technique comes in different ways, and the technique comes when he's receiving the ball in the pocket and when he's receiving the ball 1v1, because he can receive it with all angles of each foot, of either foot. Whether it's outside the boot, he can roll it, he can stab it, he can sort of prick it between two defenders. He's really, really good at duking out defenders and having a pretty decent disguise for a big man when it comes to that. So what I mean by that is, often when he gets pressure on his back like this and he receives it, he can play first-time passes in pretty unique ways to runners. Whether he's getting that pressure really good man-to-man, whether or not he snaps that to a runner who's running on there, whether or not he actually uses outside of his foot to play it around the corner like this or something like that. He's got a pretty unique way of playing man-to-man, and he doesn't really get bullied in duels at all. Now, I do think he's a very much ball-to-feet player. I do think he's got more off-ball running than what people are giving him credit for. So in this example here I've got against Nottingham Forest, and we use this example to show Youri Tielemans' longer range passing. But we can see Tielemans has got the ball, and again, Rodgers is in that specific position, which is that inside left pocket channel, that left half space. There's not really anyone hugging the width for Villa here. He makes a lovely run in behind, pulls the ball down, gets it between the fullback and the central defender of Nottingham Forest, and finishes it really nicely on his left foot. Now, this isn't the only time you will see this sort of run, this sort of move from Morgan Rodgers. Again, this is an example against Chelsea. Aston Villa are 1-0 up. Now, we've gone from talking about a position where the possession's more settled up the pitch. Now it's with Emi Martinez at his feet. He clips the ball out to Matty Cash. And if I just stop on your screen right now, on this example, as soon as Matty Cash has took the ball, look at Morgan Rodgers' position. I'm going to highlight him on the screen so you know exactly who to look at. That is a very, very unique position where he's in and where he's going to arrive from. If I think of Xabi Alonso, what he was doing at Real Madrid, Xabi Alonso, what he was doing at Bayer Leverkusen, in terms of the structures, this position is very common for the 3-4-3. And I'll explain in the end of the video why I think he could do that and why I think this signing leans towards it, even though in his first pre-season game, he's reportedly played a 4-2-3-1. So he's in that left narrow pocket right there. And we can see that when the ball is worked around, he just he just ghosts into the final third, and he arrives into the final third. He gets a touch on that top right of the box, on the tip of the box. He opens up his body, looks like he's going to bend it to the far corner, to the far post. He fakes out the keeper and drags it across the near post. Again, with that little bit more disguise, that technique. So when people are talking about Morgan Rogers not being technically the most refined, I do understand that, but I think when you're looking at technique, you're looking at sort of the passing and the weight of pass, and sometimes the speed of the pass and the technique. Where Morgan Rogers' technique comes in is his ability to strike the ball is absolutely like one of one. All of his techniques, I've seen him score front post, I've seen him score from range, I've seen him score, valve hits from range where the ball's dipped. I've seen him score the side foot free kick against Leeds away. I've seen him score 2 exact goals against Manchester United, which were that Rashford finish, which is almost on the laces, but he gets that dip where he's cutting across the ball and it starts outside and it just drops just behind the far post. He's got such a variety of techniques when it comes to striking the ball. He's also got such a variety of techniques when it comes to dribbling and carrying with the ball, and the angles he can get on the boot to manipulate the ball in certain areas. And he's a really interesting player because when you hear about someone who's got all them techniques around the box, you instantly think that they're going to be like an elite technician when it comes to the passing and moving of the ball. I will say he's not as clean as you would hope. He's he's got that like aggressive ball control. Like it's just very robust, and it's not very clean, and it's effective, and I think it's more the modern type. It reminds me a little bit, not comparing him to it, it reminds me a little bit of Kaká with the way he used to run with the ball. It was more like aggressiveness than it was simply like flowing like water and being liquid and like going through players. It was more robust, more straight arrowed, and that's what kind of vibe I get from Morgan Rogers in a lot of his work. Now, I do want to also say though that his pocket work is really good. So inside the pockets, when he's high up, I was thinking for Chelsea, I don't know whether or not he plays left wing, I don't know whether or not he plays 10. And when I thought of him playing number 10, I don't think he's going to play there for Chelsea. I just simply didn't like it for the fact that he's not got the one-of-one creativity. I think if you want to give it to someone in the pockets between the lines, I could go on to set it up right now in terms of if you're going to play like a deep 4-4-2 block. I've got some examples to show you where Morgan Rogers is actually receiving it. Now, his numbers aren't that high when it comes to assists, chances created. They're not really that high. But one thing he does do a lot is positions himself really nicely between the lines, and he asks for it a lot, often receiving a lot of sort of inside passes when it opens up like this, maybe from Youri Tielemans, Kamara. And when he gets the ball there, he can turn on it, and he relies a lot on his physicality in them moments to bounce off players. But when he does turn, he releases it quite quick. There's a lot of transitional moments where he often hugs onto the ball for too long and he holds onto it. But against deeper, settled defences, he does seem to speed the game up a little bit and play a little bit more 1-2 touch. And when the game calls for it, I think he can develop himself a little bit better to play at a faster tempo. So I've got this example here against Brentford. I've got a couple of these, so I'm just going to reel them off. I've got this example against Brentford. We can see Youri Tielemans spinning on the ball, and now the marker is around Morgan Rogers. We can see him scanning. He notices that space between, again, the centre-half and the full-back. He looks to run in, receives it, takes a lovely turn on the ball, half turns on it, moves it onto his left foot, and he actually strikes this on his left foot, again, going to that near post with a different sort of angled finish as to the ones we've talked about. So again, really good pocket work. This is against Southampton in more of a unsettled game state. We can see again now, Amadou Onana on the ball, threads the ball through to Morgan Rogers, turns on it. Again, we're talking about that side foot taking of the ball. Can he open up his body? Can he play it across his body? He's not shutting off his body. He's not someone who's going to angle himself towards the ball and send it back where it's come from. Very, very good hips. Opens up the pitch for himself, takes it in, runs it across. And again, this is the type of situation I'm talking about here. In this position where Morgan Rogers is running with the ball, it does seem that I've watched like a lot of his assists at Villa, and there does seem to be a sense of he's not giving them the ball in crazy good areas. He's not doing a magnificent dinked pass. He's not like a 50-yard, line breaker. But it just seems that his weight of pass is really good in these moments when the game needs to speed up to put it ahead of the runner and give them a more favourable finish. Probably because he's usually the one finishing them too. So I think in more settled block situations, I do think there could be an element of untapped potential with Morgan Rogers. I watch a lot of the games for England, and I do think sometimes he struggles in certain games when the block is really, really tight in there. But I think for Chelsea under Xabi Alonso, they are going to be a very, very territorial team. They're going to be an aggressive holding possession team. So again, this example against Chelsea, we can see that same thing. Onana stopping the defensive transition. They've gone full court high press. Again, Morgan Rogers is asking for it, looks for the ball before he gets it. Again, opens his foot up, his left foot this time. So again, he's taking the ball on his weaker side, opens the pitch up. He's able to attack directly looking forward into Chelsea's block, plays it forward through to Ollie Watkins, who again can take the ball in stride well, and he ends up being a goal for Aston Villa in this occasion. So I do think he's not a chance-creating masterful player between the lines who's going to take the ball here, spin on it, and then pull out, a beautifully timed slip-through ball that's going to eliminate a defender. Let's say there's a run here. He's not going to eliminate the defender going outside like this. He's not, that weight of pass is not his game. What he does do is when he's running at it, it's a little bit more narrow like this. He can just thread the ball and put the ball into the path of the player like that before the defender can get there to finish across goal or to have a decent opportunity at goal from them areas. And I just think he's a really unique player in terms of the skill set that Chelsea are buying. And the reason why a lot of the Chelsea fans are probably not over the moon straight away with this deal is, yes, because of the price that they're paying, but also the positional, thing with Morgan Rogers. It's like, where does he play for Chelsea? And I'm gonna try my best just in the last 5 or 10 minutes just to run you through where I think he might play for Chelsea, sort of moving forward under Xabi Alonso. So I actually went and looked at some of the quotes from Morgan Rogers about his own game, where he likes to play. He said, "Keeping it is not my game. I don't play football to be boring, to be safe." Which again, in my mind, strikes me as someone who likes to take a lot of, risks on the ball, which is where I would say you're probably going to play left wing. So you can do a little bit of everything. You're receiving outside. You can take on your fullback as many times as you want. And again, when I watched him for Chelsea, I seen a lot of, when I watched him for Aston Villa, and he actually did stay wide in these occasions. He was pretty good 1v1. He was pretty good. He's got that one-of-one athleticism to kick and run down the line and to cut it back across the box with his left foot. He has a really good smash cross from the right-hand side, like we've seen for Gordon's goal against Argentina. But for me, I think in this Chelsea team, I just think that the way it's going and the way the signings are working and the profile I'm talking about with Morgan Rogers, I think Xabi Alonso could play 3-4-3. And I'm not saying that like he should, but these signings, Palestra and Morgan Rogers, lean further into that for me. Because if I just put it like this, right? This would give Xabi Alonso 2 pocket players, one in Morgan Rogers and one in Cole Palmer. That just seems for me the best way to integrate them 2 players into the team. They've signed Palestra, who's a natural wing back who can play both right side and left side, but I see him as more of a right-sided player. So that with legs on the outside of Palmer makes sense. On the left side, they've got Giovanni Quenda, who I prefer on the outside of the left, like this, like a left winger, which for me, straight away, alludes itself to playing a 3-4-3. I also think Enzo Fernandez wouldn't suit one of these 2 pocket roles. So therefore, he's going to drop down into these deeper pockets in midfield. So it makes sense as to why they've brought in 2 to play that role. The problems I have with that is who's going to be making the constant runs. Because I've seen 3-4-3 and Xabi Alonso's 3-4-3 in action. And a lot of the times, the runs come from the fullbacks. They come from the fullbacks and people rotating out wide. So for example, if you had Quenda on the left-hand side, it would go like this. And then Palmer would come and sit over here. You could then have João Pedro up there. Morgan Rogers narrows inside. And then Quenda comes and stands on the left wing. And you get more of a natural 4-4-2 build-up. That is what Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen did a lot, where it chopped and changed and it just shuffled from left to right to get people in different positions. You can imagine that if it happens on the other side. If it happens on the other side, you've then got Rogers out here with a striker, with Cole Palmer, and then the right wing back pushed up high. So in that idea, I think that's what it leans more towards in my head. And I know the reports are saying that 4-2-3-1 could be the answer, but if I just put a little 4-2-3-1 on the board right now for you here, I don't know whether or not Esteval, Cole Palmer, Rodgers behind João Pedro is that good of a front four to constantly box teams in and create a lot of chances in there. I just wonder about that for me. I just wonder, because if Morgan Rodgers is coming inside, I really do think who's going to be Chelsea's width holder on the left, because Xabi Alonso is a very positional coach and he will want constant 5 players across the last line like this. And don't get me wrong, if it's built like that, Esteval, Palmer, Rodgers, João Pedro, that can work. But then who's going to hold your width on the left? And is your left centre-back good enough at coming out here and defending wide? So I think it poses a lot of questions, the signing. It poses what does this mean for the Xabi Alonso? What's he going to do with the shape? And don't get me wrong, he's got another really talented individual in the room. So that will definitely help him in terms of putting 11 players out on the pitch that can win a match. But for me, it just asks a lot of strange tactical, questions and just like problems to have. So, yeah. And just before we finish, I did a little bit of research because I went and watched some of Rodgers' really early games at Aston Villa and how frighteningly quick some of his decision-making was, how good his 1-2 touch work was in terms of taking the ball and then putting together, a couple yards. He was just so fast and so much more sharp in terms of the way when he joined Aston Villa in the Premier League as to what he is now. I think now, the use of the ball for him in the past few months has been really slow. I think his decision-making is slow. I think it looks like a player who's tired. It looks like a player who's very tired. So I went and had a look how many minutes he'd played for Aston Villa since joining in February 2024. And that is 8,900 minutes in total, which is roughly near 99 90-minute games, which is pretty much 2.5 seasons. And not to mention, he started 37 out of the 37 games that he appeared in for Aston Villa last season in the Premier League. So this is a player who has been literally used like a bar of soap. Not to mention that he's gone to the World Cup right now and he's just started, the last 2 games of England's World Cup. So for me, I do hope that this could be a player that can be, worked around a little bit better to save his minutes and to save his legs, because what I've been noticing over the last couple of years was Rodgers coming into the Premier League being such a swift player on the ball, so robust. I remember his games against City at Villa Park, Arsenal at Villa Park, and the way he was bouncing off players, the runs he was making, the sharpness and how he turned teams up in transition in terms of how quick his mind was reacting to some of the situations he was put in comparison to what I've seen in the last few months of the Villa last season. It just felt like that little bit of a drop was occurring quite a lot. So I just think physically, I would look after him a lot for Chelsea, because I do think this is a really good player. And I do think a lot of the scrutiny that he's getting hit with now in terms of like the loose passing, the loose touches, the wasteful shots, they strike me as something that just have them connotations to being a more of a like tired, just burnt out player. So I really wonder if he'll come back and he'll be a bit more rejuvenated for Chelsea and you'll see that fresher player. And then, just one last thing before we wrap up. I've got 2 touch maps on your screen right now which show you the touch map from 24 to 25 for Aston Villa, which you can see is predominantly right-sided. So this is a player who started basically central like this, but then he's also moving out to these right-hand side here, against the touch map that he had in the 25-26 season. And again, as we were mentioning at the start of the video, when I was talking about how unique his role is for Aston Villa, you can see just how many deeper touches of the ball he's getting. This doesn't mean he's receiving it from defenders in his own half. This means he's receiving it from, midfielders and his forwards in his own half as they look to build the counter-attack from these positions. So that's why he's got so many darker spots in deeper positions, because in transition, he is unstoppable when he gets going. So, a really interesting one from Chelsea. A signing I really didn't see coming. I don't think he's, in my opinion, I know the reports are suggesting that Xabi Alonso's pushed for him. In my opinion, this doesn't really seem like a Xabi Alonso type player. Obviously, I do think he sees a bit of Bellingham in him with that sort of robustness in the pocket, the ability to take the ball in the back foot, turn on the ball, bounce off players, be very physical. I think he does, really appreciate that aspect. And obviously he's coming to the Premier League and he knows what kind of physical demands being put on the league. But yeah, a really interesting signing and one that I'm a huge fan of. I think for Arsenal, it would have been pretty good. I think it would have been really good for him to play left wing. They've got runners all around him. I think Chelsea's left side lacks a little bit more of that running capability. So I'm interested to see what they do throughout the rest of the transfer window to sort of accommodate for that Morgan Rogers type player. But yeah, a good player. One I wouldn't have signed for 117 million, don't get me wrong. I don't think anyone on planet Earth probably would have. But yeah, it's just a really interesting one. And I just don't know at the moment where he fits. And hopefully a lot of Chelsea fans can understand that, because I think everyone's going, we can't really judge him yet because no one knows where he's going to play. So yeah, I think for me, I would just put him left wing 4-2-3-1. Allow him to drift in, and I would do pretty much everything to sign some form of runner at left back, some form of, just long-legged, that Nuno Mendes type player, just to get them around him. But that's where I would see him fit. So, yeah, if you did enjoy watching, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Overlap Breakdown channel, and we'll be back next week for some more analysis. Thank you.
This has been a Global and the Overlap production.